Hot damn. The dead aren't the only thing that's rising. Grossi Posse, Game of Thrones Nation, welcome to the final season of Game of Toms. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and we just hopped right into the fire, or should I say the snow in this one, with the Game of Thrones Season 8 premiere. And there is a lot to break down, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot that will be happening in the near future. The first thing that I have to tip my imaginary hat to is the new intro is phenomenal. It is slowly evolved year after year after year, but mostly it's kind of stayed the same. But like the little touches of whether it's exploring the crypts of Winterfell or like the blue tiles that were flipping over indicating the army of the dead going towards Winterfell, just la piece of resistance. But let's break down. So opening scene, you got a little Billy, he's running, he's like, "Oh man, I want to see all the soldiers," similar to how you'd see Arya, for example, back in the good old premiere back in season 1, and she's like, "Go ahead, little one, climb that tree." He would be dead soon. But Dany and Jon rolling into Winterfell as badasses, and we knew that Sansa and Daenerys weren't going to get along, but I thought like maybe there'd be like a little tension, a little back and forth, but this is like straight up Mean Girls, and Sansa's treating Daenerys like she's Regina George. And the only reason I did that is because Regina George was blonde and Sansa's a redhead, so she would be Lindsay Lohan in this one. I also love the fact that Jon runs over to Bran, like super excited to see him, embraces him, kisses him on the head, and it's like, "How you doing, buddy?" And he's like, "You're all going into the abyss and love is death." And he gives that little look to Sansa, like, what the hell is wrong with him? And Sansa's like, "Bro, I have no idea." And I love how they're building this up, like Sansa meets Daenerys, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, they're all coming together." And Bronn's like, "Yeah, we're all gonna die now. Yeah, this is gonna happen. Yeah, Captain Buzzkill, here we go." So really just indicating that Bran, and there's 2 points in this episode that stood out to me. One, where he was saying, "I'm not really a man," because obviously Three-Eyed Raven. But then at the end of the episode, he says that he's not Jon's brother. So it's really interesting to kind of see the evolution of his character. And while he was like super duper weird these past few seasons, especially when he became the Three-Eyed Raven, like it's a good question. Like, is he even human anymore? According to Bran, not really. And so what is he? And I know there's all those theories about, him potentially being the Night King, and that's a whole nother hole that will potentially jump down. But really kind of not being able to associate with anybody, and you see the emotions that are ranging on all the characters' faces when they're reuniting, and Bran is just like a tree. A very stoic and sad tree. One of the themes of this episode also was the fact that the North was not happy with Jon at all. The last time that we saw them, they were bending the knee and screaming, "King of the North, King of the North, King of the North." And then he comes back and he's like, "Hey guys, awkward, not King of the North anymore, and Daenerys is our new queen." And so that was not taken well. Lady Mormont, of course, being a badass, and was like, "Bro, what's going on?" And listen, Jon really didn't have a whole lot of answers for him. And this whole like, "Oh man, your sister doesn't like me." Yeah, no crap. And what I love about this episode, and what I think this did really well, is this actually almost felt like one of the earlier episodes, and just like the intrigue and the politics, which really had been reserved for the South and King's Landing, has made its way up with these characters into the North in Winterfell. And that there is like that plotting, there is that scheming. Varys is there as well. But like that meeting between like Tyrion and Sansa, right? They're finding out, or Tyrion's finding out that like, hey, Sansa's gotten really good at this game, right? And Sansa is kind of looking down upon Tyrion. That's not a short joke, literally, and saying like, "Listen, I thought you were this really smart guy, but if you're trusting Cersei, like after all this time, there's obviously something wrong there." And what they've really kind of embedded in this episode is like, as a viewer, you start questioning Daenerys, right? And that really kind of happens throughout the episode. And you really start looking back on Daenerys has had all these like heroic moments and these like moments of greatness, and you think she's going to be a great queen. And I feel like Jon is similar to the viewer, right? Like we've bought in on that hard of like, yeah, she's the person who should sit on the Iron Throne. She's the best suited for the job. And throughout this entire episode, a bunch of characters like throw wrenches in there, whether it's Sansa, whether it's Sam, of course, and really it's kind of like shaking Jon to his core, but we'll get to that momentarily. Another big reunion, of course, is Jon and Arya, who Arya has to like remind him like, hey, listen, like you need to be loyal to the family because Jon has really kind of jumped on board, both literally and metaphorically, with Daenerys. And so, you know, he's going to be torn into two places. And is he going to be loyal to his family, or is he going to be loyal to his new queen? Also, over in King's Landing, you saw that the Golden Company finally arrived with their 20,000 soldiers, but sadly, no elephants. And more importantly, or more shockingly, you saw how Euron was able to make his way into Cersei's bed and, you know, promising that he's going to put a prince in her belly, which, guys, that's the worst pickup line. Don't try that in real life in 2019. But obviously Cersei's still pregnant, or at least still faking. She's still drinking though. Still drinking, or at least had the glass in her hand. So a little shaky on what's going on with that. Also, we saw Bronn make his way back into the picture in the middle of about to have a threesome. Oz, of course, gets interrupted by Qyburn. And good thing, because this is why protective sex is so important. Wrap it up, even in Westeros. But Cersei basically hiring Bronn to go and kill Jaime and Tyrion with Joffrey's bow. Oh, the cruel irony and disgustingness of it all. I mean, listen, Bronn loves his money and stuff, but I personally don't see him doing this. And if he does, it's going to break my heart. Theon also swooped in too. He saved Yara. And then Yara yada-yada'd off into the Iron Islands, while Theon, because he wants that redemption, is making his way up to Winterfell. So we're really getting like all of these characters up here. You also saw a little flying dragon action, right, with Daenerys and Jon, and they had a little like little Top Gun moment, right? Except if like Tom Cruise and Goose like made out. They were having that moment. It actually reminded me of like the Ygritte thing, like when they landed in this spot and she's like, oh, we could stay here. Kind of what Ygritte was saying of like, you know, we should have stayed in that cave, or we should just stay in this cave. And I saw like some flashbacks between that. We also got the Hound and Arya, who, that was one of the reunions I was most excited about. It was kind of like, you're a piece of garbage. And she's like, yeah. And then that was that. That was basically the entire thing. Arya and Gendry, they like each other, but it looks like wants Gendry to make her a bow. Interesting enough. Also, before we get to the whole Sam telling Jon thing, we also saw my main man Tormund, right, who survived with other members of the Night's Watch and the Brotherhood Without Banners, and seeing the kid from the very beginning pinned to the wall in that symbol that has been there, like that represents the White Walkers, and coming alive like a horror movie, and then getting burnt as a white was horrifying, truly, truly horrifying. And they're like, hey, we are going to get to Winterfell before this big battle comes. And the big battle is scheduled for episode 3 of this season. And so that is going to be coming very, very quickly. But let's get to the biggest thing about the episode, with Sam revealing to Jon that he is the true king. They didn't slip in the thing that was, you know, yo, dude, you're in love with your aunt, because I think they're just letting Jon figure that out for himself. And Jon is like completely blown away. And what I love they did about this scene is the fact that Sam, of all people, because I gotta be honest, I completely forgot that Daenerys like killed his father and his brother. And so this was a nice way of, again, like throwing in that doubt of like, hey, you know, if you were, Jon, if you were in this scenario, would you have killed my dad? Would you have killed my brother? You know, you gave up your crown to save your people. Is she gonna do the same? And it's not only him questioning and realizing who he really is, but it's also questioning and potentially realizing who he is faithful to and who he is in love with. And so again, like, this is going to be a really big conflict. And if both of them, both Jon and Daenerys, survive episode 3 and they survive the Battle of Winterfell, there's going to be a lot that they're going to have to talk about. It's going to be a really awkward Thanksgiving. And then finally, that last bit, that very, very last bit, we got Jaime the Kingslayer coming in to Winterfell, and Bran, being Bran, literally just stayed out there all night saying, waiting for an old friend, was the first to greet Jaime. And oh my God, I am so excited. And that's where they ended it. And Jaime is not going to be really warmly welcomed. As we've seen from the trailer, obviously he's going to be participating in the battle. But, there's a lot of reunions that he's going to have to deal with. Obviously, Bran and throwing him out the window, right? Sansa's not going to like him. Daenerys, because he killed her father. There's a lot to unravel, and I feel like the next episode's really going to be about Jaime's arrival and kind of the repercussions of that as they get set for this battle with the dead. But if I had to give this an overall score, again, light on action, but for me, this felt like an old episode of Game of Thrones, which I'm super duper happy about. So I would give this a flat out 9 out of 10. I was super duper stoked about it. They gave me a lot of payoff in some of the reunions I wanted to see. But the crazier thing that I have to kind of come to deal with is that there are only 5 more episodes of this thing, and there's a lot of story to get through. I hope it doesn't feel rushed. But good God, I'm along for the ride. Let me know what you thought about the episode down below in the comments. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com and all at Tom Grossi Comedy at all the social media you see down below. We'll be doing Game of Toms after every single episode this season. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and winter is here.